Good day. This is Brett Johnson with OneMedRadio in New York City. Today I'm with Frank Reynolds, who is the CEO of Invivo Therapeutics, a Cambridge, Massachusetts company that's developed treatments to improve function for those paralyzed as a result of traumatic spinal cord injury. The company was founded in 2005 with a technology developed at MIT. It's traded on the bulletin board at NVIV. The company recently announced that they had submitted an investigational device exemption to the FDA for a device to protect spinal tissue and prevent secondary injury following traumatic spinal cord injury. Thanks for joining us today, Frank.
Thank you very much for having me.
Can you tell us first a little bit about Invivo's business and the significance of your submission to the FDA and what this might mean for Invivo?
Yeah, sure. So today there is no treatment for a spinal cord injury other than treating from trauma to areas around the spinal cord itself. So there'll be spinal fixation devices and different maybe anti-inflammatory treatments to try and calm, you could say, the areas outside of the spinal cord. But there actually isn't a treatment that actually is implanted into the spinal cord itself. And so we've submitted an application that doesn't involve any drugs or cells, that has only a 1-year patient follow-up. And we believe this treatment will provide neuroprotection, as you mentioned earlier, and then, of course, support neuroplasticity and regain levels of functioning in the patients in as fast as, say, 4 weeks after injury. So we're very excited about this, the product. The product is also a true platform technology, so we have used the same product along with, say, human neural stem cells and had successfully treated monkeys with the human neural stem cells. So the platform, the first product we've submitted to the FDA will become a true platform to enable the delivery of other drugs and cells in a variety of different forms. And in the end, we should be able to treat just about every type of spinal cord injury there is.
So when do you find out from the FDA the status of the exemption?
Yeah, so we have obviously a very novel technology. No product like this has ever gone through the FDA. So we know that there'll be a very collaborative, cooperative conversation between Invivo and the FDA over the coming months, and we hope to have, final approval for a human study by the end of the fall.
Terrific. And then when would a study commence, would you expect?
It could be at the Q4 2011 or early 2012.
Terrific. Can you tell us a little bit about spinal cord injury? And you mentioned earlier that often the paralysis occurs, in the time after the injury itself. Can you tell us a little bit about spinal cord injury?
Yeah, so we may all be familiar with people like Christopher Reeves, who was injured falling off his horse, who had a very significant traumatic spinal cord injury to his neck. There's all different types of spinal cord injuries, but in most cases, about 90% of the cases, the patients are actually paralyzed and put in a wheelchair for life from a secondary injury that's comprised of bleeding and inflammation, with inflammation really being the real problem. So that process occurs over 21 days after the initial injury, and then that process puts them in the wheelchair. So if you can mitigate that process, if you can somehow reduce that inflammation, that's called neuroprotection. If you can reduce the inflammation, then you're going to have reduced scarring of the spinal cord. And with that reduced scarring, we expect to see the patients recover. That's called neuroplasticity. So through neuroplastic effects, patients will actually regain levels of functioning that they couldn't ordinarily have obtained without this treatment.
Interesting. How many spinal cord injuries are there in the U.S. and or the world every year?
Yeah, so every year there's over 167,000, I believe, worldwide. In the U.S. there's about 12,000. Those numbers are put out by a variety of different organizations. But there's also about 5,000 to 6,000 injuries a year that actually result in death that don't make the official books, you could say. So the actual number is probably upwards of 17,000, 18,000 in the U.S. So although the number sounds kind of small, of course, the cost of care for a patient, quadriplegic's first-year cost of care is going to exceed $1 million. The net present value of the cost of care of the quadriplegics over $6 million. So there's significant, financial costs associated with the condition, of course. And then for anybody who does bring a treatment to market, we believe there'll be a significant financial reward.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit how you got involved in the company and the company's origins in this technology?
Yeah, so we have an interesting organization. Some people call it serendipity. I was paralyzed myself in 1992. I spent over 5 years in bed and body brace on my knee to my neck. About 3 years into my ordeal, I began my own research, spent 2 years mastering the spinal cord, and developed a rehabilitation program that was able to take endogenous neural cells, basically spared cells that people have in their spinal cord after an injury. And I was able to basically activate those cells to make good use of them and get myself back walking. And that's actually what our technology supports. So our technology supports the sparing of the cells and then allowing the body through rehabilitation to make good use of those cells. So anyway, I got back to normal walking, you could say, without bracing in 1999, and basically went on with my life. In 2005, I'd been asked to go to MIT and complete an executive MBA program by Siemens. And while at MIT, I met Bob Langer. Bob Langer is number 2 in history of patents behind Thomas Edison. He's number 1 in history of life science patents, and he's a true living legend. He's had over 50 products already approved by the FDA. He's actually former chair of the Science Advisory Board at the FDA. So anyway, meeting a person like Bob, and Bob telling me that he had a technology that could help people with spinal cord injuries, and having recovered from one myself, I just felt compelled to really try and help. So I agreed to help Bob try and raise some funding in 2005 for his research, but we ended up forming a company in the fall of 2005. So since that time, we've added the former chief of spine surgery at Harvard's Brigham and Women's, Eric Woodard, who's now our chief medical officer, the former CEO of Siemens, George Nolan, who is basically my mentor and training me how to be a public CEO myself, is now our lead director and on our board of directors. Our company went public back in the fall. So basically, the company's been kind of put together through a lot of good relationships that have been built over the years. Of course, some coming from Bob, some coming from Eric Woodard, and from all members of our team.
Terrific. So you indicated that you've been doing some studies on primates, and you've seen some good results. Can you talk a little bit about those studies and what you're finding?
Yeah. So basically, there's an injury model. It's actually very difficult to study a spinal cord injury in primates. The injury model we use is called Brown-Séquard, which basically leaves the left leg paralyzed and the right leg functioning. And so we basically use the Brown-Séquard injury model and then treat with different types of treatments. So we have a scaffold technology without drugs or cells, and that has provided therapeutic effect. Those monkeys are up and walking and running in 2, 3, 4 weeks. We also have an injectable version of hydrogel that time releases drugs over a few weeks. That technology also has our monkeys up and running. We have used the scaffold in combining it with human neural cells, and those monkeys were up and running in just a few weeks. So it's very exciting. We've also done scaffolds and growth factors, and those also have monkeys up and running. We know that the scaffolding material, the extracellular matrix that cells, would love to adhere to, that's a real key competitive advantage for us. Our patent portfolio covers the use of those biomaterials in combination with drugs, in combination with cells. We know that there's nobody going to be able to take a product to market in the spinal cord for any treatment of spinal cord injury without us. We do believe the biomaterials are what we call the picks and shovels of the tissue engineering and drug delivery space. As we all know from the gold rush, the only people who really made the money were the picks and shovel sellers, and we know that there's a lot of investment going around right now in the field of neuroprotection and regeneration, and we think that biomaterials are the key to that whole field. And with our patent portfolio, we believe that we have a defensible position that will prevent anybody from entering the market space without us. Terrific.
So you talked about sort of some milestones on the horizon, one of which is you indicated you had a primate study that was going to be, the results of which would come back sometime this fall. Can you talk about some of the other milestones in the future for the company?
Yeah, sure. So we recently announced a significant patent expansion. We do have over 100 patents licensed from MIT and Harvard through a joint license. They are exclusive and worldwide. And we just expanded outside of the spinal cord to include the peripheral nervous system, where there are hundreds of thousands of surgeries per year. Also the retina, cranial nerves, brain, and prostate nerve. And actually, I just spent time this week in New York City at Sloan Kettering, working with Dr. John Mulhall, who we are partnering with to develop a treatment for prostate nerve damage as a result of prostate surgery. Basically, of course, we know upwards, I guess it's 90%, they say, of all men who die at 90 have prostate cancer upon autopsy. The numbers are staggering about the number of men affected by prostate. And then there's hundreds of thousands of surgeries a year around prostate surgery. And they do result in nerve death, just the same type of process that a spinal cord injury goes through in resulting in nerve death. So bleeding and inflammation as a result of the surgery ends up in the prostate nerve death, and we are successfully treating it in the spinal cord. We believe we're going to transfer that into that nerve, and our early work with Dr. Mulhall is very promising. So we have, basically a portfolio of products. Our peripheral nerve applications are going to involve epidural shots and other nerve block shots early, and then, of course, regenerative technologies later on. So we basically have a nice portfolio of products, going forward, and we look forward to developing all.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit about the stock and how it's traded, and also sort of your capital needs outlook in the future?
Yeah, sure. So our stock symbol is NVIV. We've been trading now for really about 6 months. We are probably going to receive an S1 registration approval very soon, which will expand our float. We've had a float of somewhere around, I believe, 3.5 million shares. We'll be adding 13 million shares to the market space, and that's going to significantly increase our trading volume. We know that we have a lot of pent-up buying. We have a lot of people telling us that they're interested in buying large blocks of stock. Of course, with the float being so small, they haven't been able to do that. So although our volume's been low, what I find very comforting for me is, by the way, I am the largest shareholder in the company with about 30% of the company. So what's comforting for me is, although the volume's low, we don't have any sellers. There's not a lot of people dumping stock. Everybody has faith in our company. Our shareholder base is strong. We'd like to, of course, and are looking forward to getting the S1 approved so that these additional millions of shares can hit the market and get a longer, wider base of institutional investment. So that's what we expect to happen in the near term. We have enough cash right now to make it through probably Q2 of 2012. We're in talks right now with a number of bankers for a round that's probably going to occur in September, but we'll see. We have a lot of different possibilities depending on the valuation that's put on the company right now. We could be raising upwards of $20 million. Of course, we believe right now that we can defend a $400 million valuation. Our valuation, of course, is very low right now.
What's the market cap of the company today?
The market cap, I believe, is around $70 million.
Okay, and the stock trading at
70.
I gotcha. So, assuming you get the S1 rolling and get some more shares in circulation, you expect that the market cap could dramatically increase over the next
absolutely
few months.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're in talks with a significant number, not just 2 or 3, but a significant number of banks right now for a good important round that we think is going to take our valuation up. And then, of course, followed by the publication of our large primate study and approval of a human study, along with the other advancements. Of course, we're going to be reporting on progress in our other technologies. We just hired an important new scientist for our organization, a real experienced neuroscientist. Been working in spinal cord for probably about 20 years. And, we're really excited about building our team out and getting these other applications out. So, we think that there's a lot of value-creating events to come up for our company, and certainly not in the stock today.
Yeah, sounds like a very exciting story, Frank. Congratulations on the great progress, and we'll look forward to hearing more about how these studies are coming along and the IDE and the S1. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You bet. That was Frank Reynolds, Chief Executive Officer of Invivo Therapeutics, traded NVIV on the bulletin board. This is Brett Johnson signing off from New York City and OneMedRadio. Thank you.